So, about 30 years ago, I had a fortunately brief amateur boxing career. I had exactly one official fight, which I'm happy to say I won, not really important. But perhaps unsurprisingly, given the fact that I have a lifelong interest in health and well being, the reason decided to cut my amateur career short, even though I had a great love for boxing, was because of the health concerns. You can only walk home from the gym after some hard sparring with a post workout headache before you begin to question the wisdom and the prudence of what you're doing. Now, in the modern world, more and more people are getting a taste of what boxing training is like, even though they're not getting into a ring and absorbing punishment. There are, all kinds of boxing and kickboxing classes, and people for a good workout are going into the gym and they're doing a structured 30 or 60-minute session punching a heavy bag. And about 3 or 4 years ago, after being away from the sport of boxing for a long time, I started taking boxing fitness classes. And you go in, and it's primarily consists of heavy bag work. You're doing various drills and performing different combinations of the bag. And after my first couple of sessions, I noticed that I was actually experiencing post-workout headaches. And during the act of punching the bag, I was experiencing what felt like a brain rattling sensation inside of my head. I would hit the bag, sometimes not even very hard, and I felt like the kinetic energy was coming back into my body and my head was being shaken. And so out of curiosity, I went online and I started doing Google searches and going onto boxing forums, and I found that this phenomenon appears to be very common, at least in terms of anecdotal accounts, among people who are doing heavy bag work. And I noticed that a lot of people responding to these concerns about this experience were quite dismissive. People would say things like, well, the bag doesn't hit back, and you're not headbutting the bag, are you? And you see that kind of comment, and the word that comes to my mind is meathead. That's a person who's just not taking a genuine health concern very seriously. So anyway, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about what I think might be happening that produces this kind of phenomenon when we're performing the act of punching on any kind of solid surface. Now, of course, whenever an impactor strikes a solid surface, it's not just the solid surface that takes, all of the trauma, the blunt force trauma. A lot of that kinetic energy is coming back. It's like when a meteor strikes the surface of a planet or a moon, the impactor itself is destroyed. So there's a lot of kinetic energy coming back in. When we hit the bag, obviously that energy is coming right back into us. That's why you might get pain in your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder. People get hand injuries when they're striking a bag. And when you think about it, like in a sport like marathon running, when people run 26 miles on concrete and on asphalt, it's not just their feet that are getting hurt. You get injuries in your ankles, your shins, your knees, your hips, all the way up to your back. That kinetic energy is coming all the way up through your entire body. So in terms of the effects that boxing can have on the brain, we need to remember that medical science has proven unequivocally that one need not directly strike his or her head in order to experience a brain injury. And the most emphatic demonstration of that, I think, is in the chronic neurological problems among football players. We've all heard of the CTE that a lot of football players experience as a result of being tackled and as a result of the intense contact that happens in football, not being directly struck in the head, but the act of being tackled by some 300-pound linebacker, that can concuss you, and it does rattle the brain. Furthermore, even among the general populace, there are what might seem like pretty innocuous activities that can actually cause brain injury. You might remember in the 1980s, heavy metal music and the fad of so-called headbanging. Guys with long hair would thrash their head up and down because it looked cool and hardcore. People have actually been severely injured and have even died as the result of participating, for instance, in headbanging contests. You might have a contest where you try to thrash your head as many times as you can in 60 seconds. Guess what? Young people have died doing that. People have gone to heavy metal concerts, headbanged, and then gone to the hospital or died. And so I don't talk about this to try to scare anyone off from participating in boxing fitness, because This is something that I'm deeply involved in now, and which I love doing. In fact, as I am recording this, I'm preparing to do a moderate 5-round workout on the Century Bob here. But one reason why I typically work on this type of a device rather than a heavy bag is because it's a little bit more of a forgiving kind of surface. When you punch a heavy bag, it's very, very dense, particularly when they're very big and they're made out of, or they're filled with sand. You feel like there's no give, and all of this kinetic energy is coming back into your body. With Bob here, you see him moving so much because there is that kind of give. It's a little bit more malleable. And another type of good bag to strike is a water bag or an aqua bag. I've never had that kind of brain rattling sensation when punching a water bag. But also, I think it's important to remember the significance of good punching technique. The reason I'm still doing this activity, and I'm not concerned about some kind of subtle harm that might be happening to my brain, is because I have noticed a connection between improved punching technique and freedom from that kind of brain rattling response. I think, here, let me move this jump rope here. When you punch the bag, when you punch correctly and you're not arm punching, this. I'm not a biomechanical expert or a biophysicist. I don't claim to understand all the science of what's happening, but when you're delivering this kinetic energy into the object that you're striking with maximum efficiency, it seems to me that there's just less coming back. That's the reason why punching technique is so important. When people are taking a heavy bag boxing fitness class and you see them just arm punching like this, I've actually noticed the people's heads just bobbling up and down like a bobble doll. And so if you keep that good technique, if you're good and tight, you keep a tight core, keep your elbows in, and you remember to turn into the punch. I'm not punching at full power here, maybe 70%. No problem. I'm not feeling my head rattle. If, however, I'm doing a bag drill and I'm just punching with my arms like this, I actually feel my cheeks shaking. I feel my chin shaking. My body is less tight. I have less of a tight core. I'm not really punching correctly. And it's just like this energy is coming right back in. My body doesn't have this support. I'm not coiled. This. The more I'm turning the body, the more power I'm delivering the punches with, the less of that kind of brain rattling effect I'm feeling. So anyway, I just think this is something to keep in mind. We don't want to be dismissive of any potential health concerns, especially when it comes to the brain. Your brain has to last you a lifetime. And there are all kinds of studies that show there are just numerous environmental and lifestyle factors that are affecting people's brains today. We see a global increase in incidence of dementia. We don't want to do anything to exacerbate whatever these factors are that are affecting our neurology. But overall, I still think that boxing fitness and bag work, heavy bag work, whatever you're punching on, is still something that will add something to your life and will help you make really large strides in your fitness in a short period of time. But we do want to keep in mind the importance of good boxing technique. Listen to your body and don't be dismissive of any kind of symptoms or side effects that you or anyone else is experiencing. Machismo is a common kind of attitudinal posture in the sport of boxing, and you don't ever want a meathead to influence important life decisions that you're making for your health. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.